Truth is a fugitive slave. Help us set the truth free. The news is only new if you don't remember what happened yesterday, the day before, the year before, the decade before, the century before, or in the past millennium. If you do remember, then the news is the same crap over and over and over again. This is not the news. Welcome to the knowledge revolution. Welcome to the underground newspaper. Food for thought. History is boring because it is presented as information, not knowledge. Information is a bunch of facts. William the Conqueror conquered England in 1066 when he defeated the Saxon King Harold at the Battle of Hastings, etc., etc. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, and you were born, most likely, sometime after 1940. Information is what keeps you informed. When an army prepares for battle, they assume their formation, be it phalanx or cohort, overwatch or ambush. If they apply themselves selflessly to the task of maximizing their potential to assume their formation, they could be considered well-informed. When the medieval king sends out his heralds to inform his bishops, lords, knights, freedmen, and serfs of some impending war or birth of a son, the population, who would not otherwise have any way of knowing the machinations of the court, are gratefully informed. Whether or not they think their king a fool, their social cohesion and national identity is formed by the shared experience of the scant few messages they may receive in a year. Yet when the naive human mind is exposed to the tools of manipulation betrothed by Freud, Bernays, and Goebbels, woe be to the well-informed public. Information is no more meaningful than memorizing the ones and zeros of binary code that compile this message. However, if information is the foundation of your identity, the basis of your worldview, then you are subject to the sources of that information. Let's go back to the Battle of Hastings. What you learned in school was, and probably forgot, was likely BS. Metal-tipped arrows had little to do with it. The heavily armored veteran Saxons held the hill, and their shield wall would not break. They likely would have carried the day. It was only when, on their right flank, the Norman line retreated, that the battle turned. You see, the Saxons pursued them down the hill, and their shield wall was compromised. The Normans regrouped, and the Saxons could not regain their battle order. For a moment, re-envision the history of Great Britain, with no Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth, George III, or Queen Victoria. So there is a lesson here. When you are doing something that is working, keep doing it. Don't change your strategy from the overconfidence that comes with success. Now I have just given you something more than information. You now have the knowledge gained from experience. The magic of history is the functional, day-to-day, actionable knowledge that is waiting to be discovered. The smoking gun. On December 31st, CNN's Money page posted a headline article with the title, "Here's How Much the Richest Americans Make." The article featured a comparison chart between the average income of the top 400 U.S. income earners and the average U.S. income, $265 million per year versus $61,700 per year. Something struck me as odd about the image. There was a circle denoting the size of $265 million that was about 250 pixels wide, next to a circle denoting the size of 61,700 that was about 15 pixels wide. I got out my calculator and did a little division. 265 million divided by 61,700 equals 4,294.98. This confirmed my suspicion that the size of the circles was more than a little inaccurate. If the chart had represented the average income with a single pixel, the average income of the top 400 earners would have been about 4,295 pixels in diameter. To help get some perspective, if you are lucky enough to have a high-definition computer monitor, your screen is 1,920 pixels across. So to accurately display the difference between the average income and the average income of the top 400 earners, you would represent the average income as a single pixel and the top earners as a huge circle which would only half fit on higher resolution screens. Perhaps no one thought to check the math. Perhaps the author did not have a basic understanding of charts. Perhaps it was not convenient to display the image accurately, simply because it would have been awkward to display. However, the fact remains that the image was extremely misleading. In the symbolic subconscious mind, the two circles CNN displayed are different, but not all that different. If the circles were houses, the big circle would be a wealthy estate and the small circle would be a townhome. An owner of such a townhome could likely imagine themselves through thrift or luck or inheritance or innovation one day being able to purchase the estate. However, the actual comparison to a 1,000 square foot townhome would be 268 16,000 square foot estates. Short of winning the lottery, what sort of normal economic happenstance could possibly transform a $61,700 a year earner into a $265 million a year earner? The fake chart says something rather manipulative. It says, nothing is wrong with this picture. Regardless of the numbers, the image has been implanted in your subconscious. The real chart says something else quite profound. It says, equal opportunity is a big lie. It says the economy is rigged. It says that from the perspective of our society, you are worth profoundly less than a billionaire, and you are 1 pixel away from being totally worthless. How many of you would look at the accurate chart and think nothing of it? Have you been that conditioned to accept your condition, or does something strike you as inherently wrong? Ask yourself, what is the mentality of a person who accepts that they are a single pixel on a chart that can't display another person's dot on 2 high-definition monitors? Consider the mentality of a slave. Slavehood only functions when the slave accepts a subservient role. With mental slavery, subservience is obfuscated by the illusions of empowerment and self-determination, born in consumer culture and subconsciously reinforced by charts such as the one provided by CNN. In other words, you are surrounded by a cage, but the cage is not made of metal or stone. The cage is made of symbols, histories, and facts that force the rational mind into a subservient state. For example, as long as you accept these statements, you participate in a free market economy. You live in a democracy. Your religion is based on the one and only truth. Fighting in a war is the highest form of service. The doctor will make you better. Voting is the only form of political participation. You will likely also accept these statements. You need a large bank account to have personal value. You need a government to grant you freedom. You need a religion to provide you meaning. You need an enemy to become strong. You need a drug to be healthy. You need a politician to change society. If your heart screams, hell no, to any or all of these statements, there is likely one simple reason. At some point in your life, you have discovered for yourself that not all of the pieces of information you have been given fit neatly together. For instance, we are told we have a 5.7% unemployment rate, yet 20% of all U.S. households have 0 employed persons. We are told that 2% inflation is healthy for the economy, when the interest in most savings accounts is 1%. We are proud to get a home loan, when the loans only drive up the cost of housing. We are told that genetically modified foods are good for us, and that's why they don't need to be labeled. We are taught to treat medical symptoms instead of seeking causes and cures. We are told that this land or that land does or does not belong to us when we belong to the land. We believe that they do it to us when we do it to ourselves. Those of you whose heart fell silent when your most sacred beliefs were called into question, here it is. 2 circles. One is 4,295 pixels in diameter. The other is a single pixel. Whether you are poor, middle class, or upper class really doesn't make much difference. You are the single pixel, maybe 2 pixels. This is a tiny corner pulled up on the high production value, extremely entertaining curtain that prevents you from seeing the true condition of yourself in this wholly out of balance world. There is something wrong with a world in which any one person accepts the value of their self at 1/4095th of another. But extremely concentrated wealth in very few hands is a symptom of a chronic disease, which is the decay of selfhood. Before being imprisoned by fear or faith or hate or greed or any of the myriad of control mechanisms of culture, you are a coherent, self-contained, self-sustaining self. Look yourself in the eye. Quote yourself as an expert. And please, please, stand up for yourself. Use information as a tool to pursue knowledge. Use the past as a roadmap to the future, and empower yourself by escaping your culture. Welcome to the age of knowledge. Welcome to the underground newspaper. Break the chains of mental slavery. Walk the path of selfhood. Become a knowledge engineer. Sign up for the newsletter and review our information sources at undergroundnewspaper.org.